Swazdola Asura. I am Seraphis, the procrastinating space pirate, and I'm here to talk to you about something I really want to talk about. Well, I want to be, but every time I try to write the topic of is Stargate Spelljammer, it just refuses to blend together how I want it to. And I'm still working through It's Only Magic and the Cypher system Bestiary, so today is fuck it. Today is my complicated standing on D&D because I'm sick of the misunderstanding on just exactly what my point is. Gonna start with this. If you're listening to this and pro Wizards of the Coast or have a liking to Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins, turn away now because I'm about to call them cunts for a majority of this video. And before you worry, good news! America isn't the only country with laws, fuckheads. And in Australia, someone who makes themselves a public figure inherently brings upon them the right of a citizen to have an opinion, even if that opinion is calling them a cunt. Just ask former Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott. And if you try to come after me, I'll make like Harold Holt. Okay, enough about laws and history of a country none of you are from. So, what's my beef with D&D? Well, none. Ask me about Dragonlance, Spelljammer, Eberron, and I'll chat your ear off for hours if you let me. Dungeons and Dragons in the past has produced great lore, great settings, unique flavors of a game where things are different, yet united under the same game, the same multiverse. My problem is Wizards of the Coast or WotC and the likes of Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins, although how much the latter will be around for is questionable. I have a dislike for WotC's handling of D&D for a while, since 5e released that initial Eberron book, or rather announced Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron, and everything that happened with that. So what's the deal? When WotC got D&D and made the D20 system to build 3rd edition off of, when they released the Eberron setting, they made 20-something books just on Eberron. 23, I think, was the total after the adventures too. And there's a music soundtrack out there too for the city of Shan. When they released 4e, well, that was limited in a lot of content for that. But everyone's still got 3 books: the core setting book, player's guidebook, and an adventure module. Then 5e came out. Everyone got 1 book from WotC. They didn't just disrespect settings by giving them 1 book, they disrespected settings by completely rewriting them. I'll put it this way. In Greyhawk, when the drawn cart was invented, they saddled a horse or axbeak to it. In Eberron, when the drawn cart was invented, they bound an elemental to it. Eberron is not this steampunk meets magic gunslinger magic setting. Hell, if you compare timelines, Eberron's current time period, they only invented airships 6 years ago. In Greyhawk, they've had spelljammers for over 1,000 years. Spelljammers. Not just airships, spelljammers. If you believe WotC and Crawford and Perkins' interpretation of Eberron, it's some super high magic setting of gunslinging mages and clockwork creatures everywhere. Like, no. Except for the Iron Defender homunculus, there are no constructs on Eberron that look clockwork at all. In fact, since most artificers take pride in their work, 99% of all constructs in Eberron are feats of artisanship, the likes of which haven't been seen in any other material world of the multiverse. Expedious messengers, flying messenger construct homunculi, are made from clay and feathers, carefully sculpted and brought to life through arcane rituals the artificer has learnt through study of, well, what can only be described as quantum physics in a fantasy setting. An artificer doesn't put a magic spell on something, so much as they use their artificer tool to scribe at the subatomic level within an item, moving particles around to create the enchantment on the item. Infusions is what that is. And they only last so long before the effect fades and the item returns to normal. But unlike the spell effect of weapon enhancement or armor enhancement, an infusion lasts 10 times longer, often for hours or days per level. This is what an artificer is supposed to be. If you know artificers from 5e D&D, then you know nothing. And, well, fuck it, your fun is wrong. And WotC knows what they're doing because they know at this time they've never had a wider, more captive audience. But you don't have to drink the Kool-Aid. Just stop and let go. Nothing about this new edition of D&D is going to give you anything you want. The fad will fade, the superpowerness of the player character options will tire, because there won't be a challenge. A new meta will be discovered that will be all people like D&D shorts will be talking about, and I guarantee that there will be no DM support. So good luck finding anyone long term running it for you. Oh, but that's why WotC is creating its VTT with AI DMs, so you can always play whenever you want. And that's alright then, isn't it? Crawford has been lying through his teeth, allowing players to do this and that with their characters in this new edition. Yet, how come we're not told anything on the subject of stats? Why are they just showing off artwork after artwork? Every dive with classes with Crawford sitting there talking while artwork of the class kept popping up on screen in a lazier way than what I do. And look at what I do. WotC is putting no effort into this new edition, and frankly, as I have repeatedly told people to be open and questioning of, no design into any of this new edition either. Now, I will give one person credit in the One Shot Questers livestream covering one of the last classes, that they indeed haven't talked about the Dungeon Master's Guide or Monster Manual for the 2024 edition yet. But, given how they've handled the Player's Handbook, how can you be hopeful? As of the time of writing and recording this, they've put up videos on the topic of crafting and dragons, essentially covering what should be points in the DMG and Monster Manual. And the crafting was about 9 minutes of saying nothing, and the dragons video was 7 minutes of talking about the artwork. Artwork! Are you going to be playing the artwork? Fucking no, dumbasses, you're not. Look, Dungeons and Dragons had value in its past, but none of those creatives are still at the company now. None of the literal creatives, the designers, no one. They are a circle jerk of American political ideologies. And as an Australian space pirate, none of that shit applies to me. Congrats, you respect LGBTQIA plus people. Fuck off. Congrats, you're a safe space for people. Fuck off. Congrats, you systematically told all your old fans they don't belong here. Fuck off. I mean, Jesus, Watsy, you bent the knee to a cunt that said that the orcs in D&D were racist stereotypes of black people, coming from a white guy who doesn't play Dungeons and Dragons. That's like America removing the right to bear arms amendment because Fiji said that guns are now in a public health issue. Watsy, do you see the absolute stupidity in what you're doing here? You drove away your paying customer base. You're telling people which settings they are and aren't allowed to play in because you completely misunderstand Dark Sun. Fucking hell. Maybe take that stupidity crayon out of your nose and start realizing that if you keep being a cuntbag like Disney, you'll have no one left to buy your product, except for the sheeples who will depart as soon as this new 2024 edition is exposed for being boring, broken piece of shit it is. And all on D&D's 50th anniversary. Celebrate a product by nailing in the coffin lid, huh? I dislike WotC. I dislike Crawford and his circle jerk of cohorts. I dislike their disrespect of old settings that are loved by the community for what they are. I dislike the laziness of 5e and the 2024 edition. I dislike that every book has to be a lazy adventure as well. I dislike that there are no supplements that are just magic items, spells, and more monsters, something that they have done with both editions prior to 5e since WotC bought the IP. This is what I'm going to say, and this goes out to a very special cunt out there. When WotC abandoned the loved 3rd edition for 4e, Paizo, who had been making Dragon Magazine and providing third-party material, picked up the game system and made Pathfinder. What is, without a doubt, a raging success, in no small part thanks to D20 designers from WotC leaving to join Paizo and keep the game system going. 5e was broken from the beginning. That much is obvious, when so much is left to the DM to homebrew themselves. Coldwell Press's Tales of the Valiant is the 5e version of Pathfinder, a company whose staff include former WotC D20 system designers like Wolfgang, who have taken it upon themselves to actually fill in all the mechanics and fix all the classes so that 5e is a balanced, functioning game. If you really must play 5e, then play Tales of the Valiant, not WotC's new edition, because TOV is actually designed by people who know what they're doing. And full disclosure, I did indeed back Tales of the Valiant, both the Player's Handbook and Monster Vault, as well as the Game Master's Guide. But I'm currently sans my physical copies, which are apparently nowhere to be found, and Kobold Press support, well, they've started ghosting me on answers for that. So, if you think I'm shilling, I'm not. I am some 300 plus Australian dollars out of pocket as of right now, with nothing to show for it. But at least Kobold Press have actually made a fix to the version of 5e that WotC created. It's more anyone can truthfully say that WotC, either 2014 or 2024, as they have just or those games are just broken messes. Or, okay, will be for the latter. Okay, so this got super aggressive about the subject in a way I didn't actually plan, but in the last week or so, especially with stuff coming out about the new D&D 5e 2024 edition, it kind of angered up the blood, you know? Alright, I'm cutting this now and ending it lest I start saying cunt even more. Because, let's be fair, I'm probably in trouble enough as it is. Later, Space Dogs! Nexus, end transmission.